Good evening, everyone. Last Sunday night, I began to read with you a book that really needs no introduction to most people. It's called The Pilgrim's Progress, and it was written by the Puritan John Bunyan, who just so happened to be a Baptist as well. And the reason that I say it needs no introduction is because outside of the Bible, it is the best-selling English book of all time. And it's an allegory of the Christian life that Bunyan wrote while he was imprisoned for preaching the gospel. Just to give you a review before I pick up with our reading for tonight, the main character in the book, whom we met literally in the first few words of the book, is a man by the name of Christian. And as the result of him coming into possession of a book, or what this book calls a book, which stands for the Bible, he is horribly afraid of the coming judgment that he's read about in this book, that he and all the people like him in his village are about to be destroyed. In addition to this awful fear, Christian is also, as the result of reading the book that represents the Bible, burdened with a load of sin, guilt and shame and all of those things, and he becomes possessed, and that may not be the best word. He becomes just obsessed, I guess would be the best word, with removing this burden and with eliminating this fear of coming judgment and the coming wrath that he has read about. And so he tells this to his family, and other people in his circle and in his village find out about that, and they all think that he is crazy. Well, he comes into contact. He decides to leave his family and his village because upon finding this truth, it's even more important than all of that. He comes into contact with a character by the name of Evangelist, who points him in the direction of the wicket gate, and there he tells him that his burden can be removed and his fear can be alleviated. Well, as Christian begins to make his journey to the wicket gate, two characters from where he had left approach him and catch up with him, and their names are Obstinate and Pliable. Obstinate comes to talk him out of going. Pliable is just there for the ride, so to speak. But in the process of their dialogue with one another, Obstinate can't convince Christian, and Pliable is convinced, at least for that time, to go along with Christian until Christian and Pliable make it to what's called the Slough of Despond, which representatively would speak of the discouragement that we face in life, and in particular the Christian life, and all of the things that cause us to want to give up and to give in, hardships and trials and tribulations and depression and all of those sorts of things. Well, Christian and Pliable get out, but they get out on opposite ends of the Slough of Despond, with Pliable taking the easy way out towards where he had come from and heading back that way, and Christian making his way through and getting out in the direction that's still pointing toward the wicket gate. At some point after this, Christian meets a character by the name of Worldly Wise Man, who represents exactly what his character's name would suggest, the wisdom of the world. And he begins to tell Christian that the path he is on is far too hard and it's not worth it, that there's a much easier path. In fact, he tells him about a place that's not nearly as hard to get to as the wicket gate, where he can equally have his burden removed, and it's a place called Morality. And he says that there in Morality he will meet a man named Legality and his son Civility, who can remove the awful burden from Christian's back. And so Christian, good-natured, believes that, starts making his way in that direction, but he finds out very quickly that it's a bad way. It might be an easy way, but it's a bad way. It's the wrong way. And after coming across Evangelist once again, Christian gets pointed back in the right direction towards the wicket gate. And where we left off last week was with Christian actually making it to the wicket gate. And so I'll pick up there with our reading tonight. It says, "So in the process of time, Christian got up to the gate. Now over the gate there was written, 'Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. He that will enter in must first without stand knocking at the gate, nor need he doubt. That is a knocker, but to enter in, for God can love him and forgive his sin. He knocked, therefore, more than once or twice, saying, May I now enter here? Will he within open to sorrow me, though I have been an undeserving rebel? Then shall I not fail to sing his lasting praise on high.' At last there came a grave person to the gate named Goodwill, who asked who was there, and whence he came, and what he would have. And Christian said, Here is a poor burdened sinner. I come from the city of destruction, but am going to Mount Zion, that I may be delivered from the wrath to come. I would therefore, sir, since I am informed that by this gate is the way thither, know if you are willing to let me in. And Goodwill responded, I am willing with all my heart. And with that, he opened the gate. So when Christian was stepping in, the other gave him a pull. Then said Christian, What means that? And the other told him, A little distance from this gate, there is erected a strong castle, of which Beelzebub is the captain. From thence both he and them that are with him shoot arrows at those that come up to this gate, if haply they may die before they can enter in. Then said Christian, I rejoice and tremble. So when he was got in, the man of the gate asked him who directed him thither. And Christian said, Evangelist bid me come hither and knock, as I did. And he said that you, sir, would tell me what I must do. Then Goodwill responded, An open door is set before thee, and no one, no man, can shut it. Christian, now I began to reap the benefits of my hazards. Goodwill, but how is it that you came alone? Christian, because none of my neighbors saw their danger as I saw mine. Goodwill, did any of them know of your coming? Christian, yes, my wife and children saw me at the first and called after me to turn again. Also some of my neighbors stood crying and calling after me to return, but I put my fingers in my ears and so came on my way. Goodwill, but did none of them follow you to persuade you to go back? Christian, yes, both obstinate and pliable. But when they saw that they could not prevail, obstinate went railing back, but pliable came with me a little way. Goodwill, but why did he not come through? Christian, we indeed came both together until we came at the slough of Despond, into the which we also suddenly fell. And then was my neighbor Pliable discouraged, and would not venture further. Wherefore, getting out again on that side next to his own house, he told me I should possess the brave country alone for him. So he went out his way, and I came mine. He after obstinate, and I to this gate. Goodwill, alas, poor man, is the celestial city of glory of so small esteem with him, that he counteth it not worthy running the hazards of a few difficulties to obtain it? Christian, truly, I have said the truth of Pliable, and if I should also say all the truth of myself, it will appear there is no betterment betwixt him and myself. It is true, he went back to his own house, but I also turned aside to go in the way of death, being persuaded thereto by the carnal arguments of one Mr. Worldly Wise Man. Goodwill, oh, did he light upon you? What? He would have sought you ease at the hands of Mr. Legality, They are, both of them, a very cheat. But did you take his counsel? Christian, yes, as far as I durst. I went to find out Mr. Legality until I thought that the mountain that stands by his house would have fallen upon my head. Wherefore there I was forced to stop. Goodwill, that mountain has been the death of many, and will be the death of many more. It is well you escaped by it dashed in pieces. Christian, why truly, I do not know what had become of me there, had not Evangelist happily met me again, as I was musing in the midst of my dumps. But it was God's mercy that he came to me again, for else I had never come hither. But now I am come, such a one as I am, more fit indeed for death by that mountain, than thus to stand talking with my Lord. But oh, what a favor this is to me, that yet I am admitted entrance here. Goodwill, we make no objections against any, notwithstanding all that they have done before they came hither. They are in no wise cast out, and therefore, good Christian, come a little way with me, and I will teach thee about the way thou must go. Look before thee. Dost thou see this narrow way? That is the way thou must go. It was cast up by the patriarchs, prophets, Christ, and his apostles, and it is as straight as a rule can make it. This is the way thou must go. But, said Christian, are there no turnings or windings by which a stranger may lose his way? Goodwill, yes, there are many ways, but down upon this, and they are crooked and wide. But thus thou mayest distinguish the right from the wrong, the right only being straight and narrow. Then I saw in my dream that Christian asked him further if he could not help him off with his burden that was upon his back. For as yet he had not got rid thereof, nor could he by any means get it off without help. He told him, as to thy burden, be content to bear it until thou comest to the place of deliverance, for there it will fall from thy back of itself. Then Christian began to gird up his loins and to address himself to his journey. So the other told him that by that he was gone some distance from the gate, he would come at the house of the interpreter, at whose door he should knock, and he would show him excellent things. Then Christian took leave of his friend, and he again bid him Godspeed. Then he went on till he came to the house of the interpreter, where he knocked over and over. At last one came to the door and asked who was there. And Christian said, Sir, here is a traveler, who was bid by an acquaintance of the good man of this house to call here for my profit. I would therefore speak with the master of the house. So he called for the master of the house, who after a little time came to Christian and asked him what he would have. Sir, said Christian, I am a man that am come from the city of destruction, and am going to Mount Zion. And I was told by the man that stands at the gate at the head of this way that if I called here, you would show me excellent things, such as would be a help to me in my journey. Then said interpreter, Come in. I will show that which will be profitable to thee. So he commanded his man to light the candle, and bid Christian follow him. So he had him into a private room, and bid his man open a door. The which, when he had done, Christian saw the picture of a very grave person hung up against the wall. And this was the fashion of it. It had eyes lifted up to heaven, the best of books in his hands, the law of truth was written upon his lips, the world was behind his back. It stood as if it pleaded with men, and a crown of gold did hang over his head. Then said Christian, What meaneth this? Interpreter said, The man whose picture this is one of 1,000. He can beget children, travail in birth with children, and nurse them himself when they are born. And whereas thou seest him with his eyes lift up to heaven, the best of books in his hand, and the law of truth written on his lips, It is to show thee that his work is to know and unfold dark things to sinners. Even as also thou seest him stand as if he pleaded with men. And whereas thou seest the world as cast behind him, and that a crown hangs over his head, that is to show thee that slighting and despising the things that are present, for the love that he hath to his master's service, he is sure in the world that comes next to have glory for his reward. Now, said the interpreter, I have showed thee this picture first, because the man whose picture this is the only man whom the Lord of the place whither thou art going hath authorized to be thy guide in all difficult places thou may meet with in the way. Wherefore take good heed to what I have showed thee, and bear well in mind what thou hast seen, lest in thy journey thou meet with some that pretend to lead thee right, but their way goes down to death. Then he took him by the hand and led him into a very large parlor that was full of dust, because never swept. The which after he had reviewed a little while, the interpreter called for a man to sweep. Now, when he began to sweep, the dust began so abundantly to fly about that Christian had almost therewith been choked. Then said the interpreter to a damsel that stood by, Bring hither the water and sprinkle the room. The which, when she had done, it was swept and cleansed with pleasure. Then said Christian, What means this? The interpreter answered, This parlor is the heart of a man that was never sanctified by the sweet grace of the gospel. The dust is his original sin and inward corruptions that have defiled the whole man. He that began to sweep it first is the law, but she that brought water and did sprinkle it is the gospel. Now whereas thou sawest that so soon as the first began to sweep, the dust did so fly about that room by him could not be cleaned, but that thou wast almost choked therewith. This is to show thee that the law, instead of cleansing the heart by its working from sin, doth revive, put strength into, and increase it in the soul, even as it doth discover and forbid it, for it doth not give power to subdue. Again, as thou sawest the damsel sprinkle the room with water upon which it was cleansed with pleasure, this is to show thee that when the gospel comes in, the sweet and precious influences thereof to the heart, then I say, even as thou sawest the damsel lay the dust by sprinkling the floor with water, so is sin vanquished and subdued, and the soul made clean through the faith of it, and consequently fit for the King of glory to inhabit. I saw moreover in my dream that the interpreter took him by the hand and had him into a little room where sat two little children, each one in his chair. The name of the eldest was Passion, and the name of the other Patience. Passion seemed to be much discontented, but Patience was very quiet. Then Christian asked, What is the reason of the discontent of Passion? The interpreter answered, The governor of them would have him stay for his best things till the beginning of the next year. But he will have all now. But Patience is willing to wait. Then I saw that one came to Passion, and brought him a bag of treasure, and poured it down at his feet, the which he took up, and rejoiced therein, and withal laughed Patience to scorn. But I beheld but a while, and he lavished all away, and had nothing left him but rags. Then said Christian to the interpreter, Expound this matter more fully to me. So interpreter said, These two lads are figures, Passion of the men of this world, and Patience of the men of that of which is to come. For as here thou seest, Passion will have all now this year, that is to say, in this world. So are the men of this world. They may have all their good things now. They cannot stay till next year, that is, until the next world, for their portion of good. That proverb, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, is of more authority with them than are all the divine testimonies of the good of the world to come. But as thou sawest that he had quickly lavished all away, and had presently left him nothing but rags, so will it be with all such men at the end of this world. Then said Christian, Now I see that patience has the best wisdom, and that upon many accounts. First, because he stays for the best things. Second, and also because he will have the glory of his, when the other has nothing but rags. An interpreter said, Nay, you may add another, to wit, the glory of the next world will never wear out, but these are suddenly gone. Therefore passion had not so much reason to laugh at patience, because he had his good things first, as patience will have to laugh at passion because he had his best things last. For first must give place to last, because last must have his time to come, but last gives place to nothing, for there is not another to succeed it. He therefore that hath his portion first must needs have a time to spend it, but he that hath his portion last must have it lastingly. Therefore it is said of Dives, Thou in thy lifetime receive thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, but now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. Christian said, Then I perceive it is not best to covet things that are now, but to wait for things to come. An interpreter said, You say the truth. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. But though this be so, yet its things present in our fleshly appetite are such near neighbors one to another. And again, because things to come and carnal sense are such strangers one to another, therefore it is that the first of these so suddenly fall into amity, and that distance is so continued between the second. Then I saw in my dream that the